A live coaching call and community conversation. Today we are going to be talking about water only fasts for consecutive days. And today's title is a 4-day water fast. Should we all be doing them? And I'm taking today's content from the new kind of docu-series that's going on. I think it's Disney Plus with Chris Hemsworth and how he's doing some very specific things in his life to increase his longevity chances. And so one of the episodes was on doing fasting, specifically a 4-day water fast. So I watched the episode a couple of times and I broke down and took some notes so that I can bring you guys some information about what a 4-day water fast is, should people be doing it, and kind of how to approach those kind of things. Because I know what's going to happen is it's going to be something that's trendy and we're all going to feel the pressure like we need to do something because it was on TV. So we're going to break all that down and I'm going to explain to you why it might be beneficial to you or why it might not. But before we do that, I always like to take a second to introduce myself. My name is Diane Parham. I am the creator of the online course and community, the Intermittent Fasting for Today's Aging Woman course, as well as the Midlife Mindset Shift course. And here on this channel and here in this community, wherever it is you meet up with us, we do talk about all things for us as aging women and how we can create a life so that we have the opportunity to wake up every day looking and feeling our best and doing that in our most authentic way. And we're going to talk about authenticity here in just a second, and how we can also increase our chances of longevity and a really good life looking forward, despite what's going on with us with some of the hormonal challenges and changes we have going on. So I'm going to just from the get-go post the link to get into the class, because I know a lot of you are interested in getting into our January 2023 class. It is currently open for registration, just like we did the last couple of live community conversations. I am going to be offering a little bonus because I know a lot of you have some very specific questions that you want to get answered and asked. So the first person and the fifth person who registers for the intermittent fasting course for January 2023 while we are live here, so over the next hour, I will be gifting you a bonus 30-minute one-on-one consult call with me. So it's you and me on a Zoom call, and I answer any questions you might have. Keep in mind, I am a mindset coach, so I really like to focus our conversations on why you're feeling stuck or why you're not getting the goals that you're hoping to achieve, and helping you kind of unblock that little sticking point. So that's going to be available while we're live. I will check everything when we're done with the call to see who the first one and fifth person is, and I'll be emailing you. So let's talk about 4-day water only fast. So the first thing that we need to remember about a 4-day water only fast is the 4 doesn't seem so daunting, but 96 can be, right? So 96 hours without anything except water. And what I want to take away from this docuseries that's going on is I think they did it very well. I think that the way that they approached fasting, I think the way that they modeled fasting was very healthy. It made a lot of sense. But what I really want to make sure in this community we don't do is we don't get sidetracked and go follow something that's trending or a fad when it might not be what we really need, right? And so at the very beginning of this docuseries with Chris Hemsworth, it's called Limitless. There is a warning, that what they're about to do is considered, dangerous, right? Because if you're not going into this with the right mindset, with the right tools, with the right experience, and with the right monitoring, going 4 days without food can be a very dangerous situation for a lot of people. So we want to keep that on the forefront of our mind. So then why do people do things like 4-day water only fast? Well, there are a lot of reasons, but what I want to take you through first is kind of how the 4 days went in a summary, as the docuseries kind of progresses through this one, episode. So the first day, and if you are a graduate of the Intermittent Fasting for Today's Aging Woman course, do me a favor, put in the comment section a yes if this is kind of what you went through as well. You do not have to go water only to go through this progression of changing anything in your lifestyle that is going to affect your body chemically or hormonally. And mostly what we do is we kind of use nutrition as the thing that we're tweaking, right? So the first day he felt good. So Chris Hemsworth felt great. He was super excited. All the newness of this whole journey was still fresh on his mind, and he hadn't really hit any, pain points yet, right? So very optimistic day one. You generally feel good because you're working off the energy from your last meal or last meals, right? And so you have all this energy, you're super excited mentally and emotionally, you're got the buy-in, everything's fantastic. And then day two generally is the worst day. It is the worst day with fasting. It's the worst day with breaking a habit with like caffeine. It's the worst day with trying to break a sugar addiction. It's the worst day of anything, that even probably fitness goals, right? Because the first day you're all energetic, you're not quite sore yet. Second day, the soreness starts to kick in and you start to question what the heck you're doing. So keep this in mind. Day two is generally the worst day because your body is sending you those signs and signals of, hey, wait a second. She's really gonna stick this through and she's going to not give me anything. So I'm going to send her these signals and let her know I'm not happy with that. I need my fix, and I'm going to make it really uncomfortable. And so knowing that going in really can help, because then you're anticipating the fact that day two might be the worst and you just got to get through day two, right? Remember, our reserves are depleted at this point. So again, your body's going to be sending you pain points to kind of get you to do that quick fix type of thing. And so if you're going to stick with 4 days, you have to just lean into that and know that you can't give in. You just got to get through the day two. It is what I call the detox day, is day two. And then days 3 and 4, you're generally, and this is how it played out for him as well, tired, hungry, or hangry. Your sleep usually gets interrupted at this point. You have bouts throughout the day of feeling fatigued and just kind of wiped out and flat. You might feel even a little bit of mental kind of like dysfunction, I guess would be the best way to say it, where you're mentally just not as cued in. But then there also are going to be short bouts of energy bursts and mental clarity and feeling euphoric and all of those kind of things. So it really is this type of effect because your body is going to be kind of ebbing and flowing. Part of the pain point comes from, I'm going to test DYANN to see if she's going to give me what I want. And then the good part, or the highs of it, are usually when your body realizes it can survive on its own without the quick fix that we usually kind of give our bodies when we start to feel pain or uncomfortable. So this is really how a 4-day water only fast goes in the simplest forms. Remember, I am not a doctor. I am not a scientist. I'm a fasting expert. I've been teaching this now for over 5 years, and I'm a mindset expert. So these are the things that we really go through in our thought process when we're doing something like a 4-day water only fast. And a 4-day water only fast is considered something that would be extreme at most for the average person, right? So let's talk about some other things that we want to think about if you're tempted to go without food for multiple days. Your why. As always, your why is going to determine your emotional and mental buy-in to anything that you do. And then your body kind of just comes along for the ride. Your body is going to fight you. And if your brain and your heart, right, where we usually generate our whys from, if they're committed to this and you have figured out a strong one, then this can be something that can be very empowering for people. And I'll share to you the 2 times I've done like multiple day water only fast. So there is something that you need to go through to get yourself ready. And I want you to think about water only fast for multiple days. Again, I'm not a huge advocate of it. I'm not saying that you have to do it. I'm just breaking it down so you can understand why there are going to be people who are going to be pushing this on people, right? So just like if you see someone who's running a marathon, which is 26.2 miles, and you're not a runner, you can't say tomorrow, I saw this person run 26.2 miles. She looks like me. She seems my age. I think I'm going to go run 26.2 miles. Your body is not going to be happy with you about that. And you could potentially put yourself in a dangerous situation. So there's prep, there's managing the experience, there's exiting it with a plan, and then they're resuming your normal life. And we really need to bring our why into all of these things, right? So if you go from the average person in today's society and then you just go, I think I'm going to go 4 days without food. It's going to be a very miserable and could potentially be a dangerous situation for you because you don't know how your body's going to respond. So you have to do some prep, and that is also investigative work, some research work, and then you also want to prepare your body for the actual event. In the case, if you're running a marathon, that would be getting into a running program. In the event that you're going to do some prolonged fasting, you want to make sure that you're set up and you've prepped your body for that experience as well. And that means understanding what happens physiologically when you go without food for that many days. You want to be able to manage the time that you've pinpointed out as the time that you're going to be fasting, because you have to manage that as well. There are going to be some things that come up and you got to be prepared for that. You want to make sure you have a good exit plan. There is a thing called refeeding syndrome that can be very dangerous for the average person who's uneducated and unexperienced about what happens when you go without food for 4 days. I mean, your body just doesn't digest anything. And then you put food in, your body's going to almost reject it unless you do it appropriately, right? And so we want to make sure we have a good exit strategy as well. And then we want to make sure that we have a plan to resume our life in a way that we can continue to benefit from the thing that we just experienced. And so what a lot of people do is they go into this kind of thing, which could potentially become a fad, without doing this kind of work. And then they put themselves in harm's way, or they have a negative experience. And now all the information is don't do it because XYZ, or fasting in general is going to get a bad name. And so we want to avoid that as well. So make sure you do your due diligence. And I would also, if you're a person who's considering this, I would talk it over with your doctor, especially if you're under a doctor's care. You don't want to ever do anything without talking to your doctor. And then what I want to talk about that they said very distinctly, and Chris Hemsworth was under the care and direction of a longevity expert who is a doctor, and that's Dr. Peter Attia. You guys are probably familiar with him if you do, any kind of fasting and health kind of things, and he's one of the most highly respected longevity doctors out there, one of my personal favorites. So my interest was that as well. I trust him. Is that he said probably a system reboot takes place when you do a 4-day water fast. So here's what I also want us to think about. There is no concrete evidence or test that we can take that says definitively that going without food for 4 days is what you need to get a system reboot, or to get into states of autophagy, or to do deep healing and all of those kind of things. And for the average person, you might not need to go to that one type of fast, which I would consider extreme, in order to get the results that you're hoping for. And we talk about this a lot here, right? Is if you rinse and repeat a healthy lifestyle that you have created for yourself that is authentic to you, so that you can live this lifestyle very freely and mentally, emotionally, and physically benefit from it, then do we need to go to 4 complete days of no food and only water to get a system reboot? Now, there might be situations, and we know that there's a lot of research on cancer treatments and cancer prevention and preparing for cancer treatments and all of those kind of things, and how we can set our bodies up for the best success with that. And that's where monitored water only fasting really is beneficial to a lot of people, because you're under the care of a physician. But for the average person, or women like us who are just like not happy with the weight, or not happy with the body fat, or not happy with the hormonal changes, or not happy with some of the things that are coming along with us as we transition through menopause, do we need to go to this extent to get a system reboot? So here's where I want to share with you guys a comment that just came from a Instagram live that I did on Tuesday. I'm still losing weight, which is unbelievable. My doctor, who knows I've been suffering with no weight loss for years, wants to know what happened. What happened, right? So her doctor's stunned that she was finally able to break through and start losing weight. In 6 months, Tess has lost 50 pounds. 50 pounds when she was stuck for years. It has built confidence in herself, knowing that she's finally able to lose weight, meaning that there's nothing wrong with her. She was just doing the wrong things, right? She really feels good about fasting. It makes her happy and it's empowering. And that's really how we should think about taking care of ourselves as we age and what we want for our future self, which is this longevity kind of avenue that we're all kind of on, right? We want to live as long as possible, but we also want to live well as long as possible. And so Tess is a graduate of the Intermittent Fasting for Today's Aging Woman course. She graduated, she's been in this community now for 6 months, and she was able to lose 50 pounds. She feels empowered and she feels great. She fasts for 20 hours a day and has really honed in on feasting well for her and her body so that she can reap all these benefits, right? So do you have to go to 4 days of water only to reverse the signs of aging, balance out your hormones, and really see some of these health benefits that do come with fasting? And that's really what I want us to think about. The consistency aspect over time is really where we're going to get a lot of these healing benefits without having to go to extremes. And you all know I'm a fasting mindset coach. I'm not an extremist when it comes to fasting. I'm a common sense approach person when it comes to taking care of ourselves as women. So I want us to keep thinking about that as well. And then I want you to think about this. If you've watched the show, maybe go back and watch it. If you haven't watched it yet, I think it'd be really interesting to take a look at is what they did not show in this docuseries. They didn't show how he was being hydrated, right? They only showed that he went without food for 4 days. So I'm going to guess, because he was under the care of a longevity expert and a highly respected doctor, and this was a TV show that has some responsibility to the viewer, that he was being hydrated in a very significant and very specific way. We don't know what kind of minerals were added to his hydration or what kind of supplementation was going on outside of just not eating for 4 days. So we have to just assume what they show, right? And if you're experienced and you're educated and you're doing your research, there was probably some very specific hydration going on because he was also working out during this time frame as well. They didn't really show monitoring outside of they tested his ketones at very specific states and after very specific things. So they tested his ketones. I think at day 2, they tested his ketones. At 39 hours, he was a 1.0 ketones. There's a lot of women in this community who can get to 1.0 ketones without having to fast for 39 hours. Consistency over time can get you that. I think they tested his ketones again. I think a couple days in, and he was like at a 2. And then it wasn't until the end of his 4 days that he had done some deep sea fishing to catch his break fast that he actually got to a 3.0, which is a really high level of ketones. And so again, for the average person, we don't necessarily need to get that place. So outside of that, that's all they showed that they were monitoring. But if you watched it and you paid attention, you would have also noticed he had a continuous glucose monitor on the back of his arm. So they were also monitoring his glucose levels to make sure that those stayed in a safe range. And if you're going to experiment with multiple days of no food and only water, you have to know what those ranges are, and you have to be able to tap into how your body is feeling in a fast state, so you know that if you have to tap out, you're going to do it with grace and do it in a safe way. And then we don't know of any other tests that they were doing as well. Again, he was being monitored by a doctor. It is a TV show. There is a level of responsibility. So I'm sure that there were some things that they did that they just didn't show us in the show. So things to consider when you are being shown things that may or may not apply to you as the person, and to be very inquisitive and cautious about just jumping into something like going 4 days without food. So I have done probably a 3-day water fast. I didn't really count the hours, but my why for only consuming water for this time frame was because I was preparing for a colonoscopy. I've had 2. I've kind of done it the same way both times. It made sense for my brain to go without food for that long because the goal of a colonoscopy prep is to clean out your system. So in my brain, I was like, why would I put food in if my goal is to try to get food out? And if you've ever had a colonoscopy prep, and you've had the documentation of what you're allowed to eat, those are all things I would not put in my body anyways. Fudgesicles, popsicles, all those kind of things just didn't make sense. I would have had a sugar headache. So I just decided to just go without food for 3 days because it made sense for me. And I probably reaped some of the benefits that they talk about in this docuseries because I did put myself in that state of just not interrupting my system for 3 days. So make sure what you're doing makes sense to you and it also makes sense with your life. I'm not a huge fan of going multiple days without food because I love food and I have a family that lives in my house with me and we all love food together. And so I rinse and repeat a healthy lifestyle every single day, and I make really informed, healthy choices every single day so that I give my body the best opportunity to have a probable system reboot. And that's what I want us to think about. Like, what kind of things are you doing in the course of a day that can give your body the best opportunity to reboot itself without you having to go to extremes? Now, I also believe that fasting, like exercising and what kind of food you enjoy and what kind of customs and traditions you celebrate are very personally driven and personality driven. So if you're the kind of person that thrives in that kind of environment where you can just fast for 72 hours or fast for 36 hours and you have really perfected that for you and you love it and you thrive there, I say don't let anybody tell you that that's not a good thing if it's good for you. But if you are also the person who's just like, I can't imagine going multiple days without food, I can tell you here in this community and with testimonials like this from Tess, you do not have to. You do not have to go multiple days without food in order to reap a lot of the benefits that a fasting lifestyle can provide for you. And we know that here in this community because we see and hear of women all the time who are getting taken off of. The biggest one for me that blows my mind every time is the thyroid medication, right? Women being removed from thyroid medication when they've been told that they were going to be on thyroid medication for the rest of their life. That's a system reboot. Women who have been stuck at a place where they can't lose weight for years and they start to lose weight, that's a system reboot. Rashes and skin conditions suddenly just disappearing and women no longer having to manage those, that's a system reboot. Diabetic conditions reversing, system reboot. Cognitive health coming back, system reboot. Body fat utilization, system reboot. Like we have lists and lists and lists and lists that we can run off here in this community. And a lot of you are probably here who've had a system reboot. How do you know if you're getting a system reboot? Because the things that are advertised with fasting, the internal healing of your body hormonally, chemically, systemically, when they're occurring, those are signs of healing. And that is the sign of what fasting is supposed to do for us. So make sure you're listening to these kind of trendy things with, an inquisitive ear and a cautious ear, right? Because we want to make sure we're asking ourselves the right question. Just because everyone else is doing it doesn't mean that we have to do it for ourselves. Are there other ways that you can reach that same goal with maybe not having to put yourself in a position where you're going 4 days without food? And again, if you are someone who's intrigued by this, or you think it might be a thing for you, I would make sure you do your research. You have a plan set up. You have people know what you're doing. I would test your blood glucose and ketones and make sure you know where your levels are, know what a sign and signal is to tap out, and then make sure you're okay with that. And then always talk it over with your physician if you're under the care of a physician. Okay, so let's go. Let's see who's here. Kathleen. I am very happy to join you live for my very first time. Kathleen, welcome. It is so good to have you. I just love your videos, which are so inspiring and the reason I continue to do IF. Thank you so much. You're welcome, my friend. And you coming here, and whether you're catching us live or you're catching this on the rebroadcast, when you're here, that's why I keep coming back, right? I keep coming back so that you guys know that there's someone looking out for you, that you're not alone, that you're not broken, that there's not something wrong with you. We're all in the same boat and we're all going to be on this journey together. So I'm so happy you were able to catch us live. Do me a favor, you guys, make sure you hit that like button on YouTube and Facebook as well. The only way this information gets sent out into the world of menopausal women who are really needing to hear this is if we make sure that we're showing that this is information that our community needs. So all those likes on YouTube, all those likes on Facebook, make sure you're subscribed, share this with your girlfriends who are suffering. There is no need to suffer through changes of life. If you're suffering, that means you're doing it against the way your body was designed, and there's a better way, and we're showing all that here. So glad to have you here. Joanna, I watched all episodes of Limitless. Very good. Very well done. Yeah, I thought it was very well done too. The thing that, I think a lot of us need to understand is that Chris Hemsworth is kind of a beast, right? Like he does do things in a limitless kind of way. And I think that is super cool. But I just want to make sure that we understand, like, we may not have to do it that way. Like, there's a bunch of other ways. The other thing that I thought was interesting was when his two friends bailed on him and they were sitting in the grass just ramming entire pizzas. that happens too, right? When we deny ourselves food for days and we haven't done this work and really connected to the emotional why of mentally and emotionally, then we break our fast and then we're kind of gluttonous about it. That can backfire on you. And so that's why you have to have that exit strategy again also. And then remember, here in this community, we feast so that we can fast. We don't fast so that we can eat. And that's something that we want to keep in our mind as well. Sandy, January 22 grad. Day 2 is hard for me. It's very taxing mentally and physically. I was struggling, but my day 4, 96 hours, it almost made me a natural high with loads of energy and mental clarity. Yeah. And that's probably that whole ketone thing that happens, right? So it's the evolutionary adaptations when your body produces ketones on demand, right? And so when your glucose and glycogen reserves are, they're really low, right? We always have an emergency stash of them, so our body's not going to let us die. But those ketones kick in. And I think that that's fascinating that when he went to go spearfishing to catch his breakfast fish, ketones kicked in to help him achieve his goal. And I think that that's fascinating, right? And we call that the energized sense of calm here in this community. So yeah, you do kind of get that mental clarity. And I have heard a lot of people say that like by day 3, it's almost like you're home free. So it probably just depends too on where you are when you're starting and kind of like where, what your reserve levels are looking like. Sandy, did it once to see if I could, not something I feel I need to do again. Yeah. And they show at the end of the docuseries on that one, what his maintenance is going to be, where he's going to fast till like 11 o'clock in the morning, which is, just general everyday fasting. He's going to fast like 24 hours once a month, I think it was. And then once a year, do a 4-day water fast. So, jury's still out on that one. We'll see if that happens. Joanna, I've been fasting for a year. What does it mean when I am not hungry during a 72-hour fast? That just means that a lot of times what that means is that your body is finding things to feast on. So when you are in a fasted state and you are really comfortable with understanding what hungry means and you can get through that, then what your body does is it internally starts feasting. And that's, what they talked about in Limitless is it's like it's eating the zombie cells. So your body finds things to feast on. And so that might be why you're not hungry. It's called fat adaptation also. Diana, I've done 72 hours, but I did have black coffee and green tea. Yeah, and that's fine too. So again, you have to figure out why are you fasting and what kind of prep things are you going to do? And so oftentimes with a water only fast, the intent is to get to the probably of really getting that deep cellular cleansing and deep cellular turnover and then that rejuvenation of your DNA. So it's very specific for that. And yeah, you want to have nothing. And then the like using caffeine or green tea, coffee, those kind of things during a water only fast is just giving your gut a little bit of a break from digestion, and you're using the caffeine as like a little bit of an energy boost. That's fine too. That's just the way you've designed your fast. So there's lots of variations of fast. So keep that in mind as well. It all just depends on what your goal is and what you're hoping to achieve from it. Lori, water only, not at this time for me. An October grad, but curious how many mineral water liquids such as green tea, bone broth, etc., for a mental and physical boost for a day or two. I don't know. You have to figure that out for you, Lori. Everybody's different. So I would here's what I like to do is make sure that you're giving yourself permission to take a break from, what it is you're fasting. And this is where you kind of have to just create these kind of things. Like if I start to feel this way, I'm going to try this, right? Sometimes even just a couple olives is enough to kind of get you over a hump, or a couple hazelnuts kind of thing. Or a cup of bone broth. So you have to kind of create the rules for yourself and then just kind of go with the flow of that for sure. Sometimes just getting a break from consuming food is such an aha mindset moment for so many women, because you start to recognize where you let food just in cause like there's no real reason, right? And you have to catch yourself. So sometimes just saying I'm not going to eat for 24 hours or 36 hours or whatever is a really nice, like, flushing out of your brain habits of just reaching for food without thinking. So I would just set something up and try it out. If you know you're going to use like green tea and bone broth within the confines of the time that you set up to fast, then that's fine. Then you just get to decide when it's appropriate to put it in for you. I really like 36 hours fast. I like to use unflavored electrolytes during my fast. Yeah, perfect. I think that's great. Hello, Juana. Sandy, me off thyroid medication after 15 years. Yeah, Sandy's lost, is it 100 pounds? Probably 100 plus pounds, and off thyroid medication after 15 years. So if you have a thyroid and it was kind of going wonky on you, so you had to have medicine to control your thyroid function, and then you get taken off of thyroid medication, I would say you've probably had a system reboot because your thyroid came back to functioning the way it was designed to function. So that's beautiful, Sandy. I love that for you. Will a few day water fast kickstart the release of stored glycogen from the liver when you have a fatty liver? Probably, because you're forcing your body to utilize that. But it's going to be uncomfortable if you're very glucose dependent, like if your body hasn't really kicked that dependency yet. So what I recommend doing is consistently over time, fasting long and feasting well within a 24-hour period. And here we like to do that with a 20-hour fast and a very thought out 4-hour feast to support how you're going to feel during your next fast. So I would say get really comfortable with intermittent fasting first. Identify your emotional and mental state when feasting happens. And then if you start to get into the point where you want to do little longer ones, I say that's the better approach as opposed to just jumping in to no food for a couple of days, hoping, that magic's going to happen. I say working up to it is always the best way. Nico, did you have excessive cramping fasting and preparing for your colonoscopy? No, I did not. But both times that I prepared for my colonoscopy, I had the first time with a couple years of experience with intermittent fasting. So I had reversed all of my perimenopause symptoms, pre-diabetic conditions, insulin resistance, all that kind of stuff. I was pretty confident with fasting. So I think my body was just kind of used to it. And I did this. I prepared for it and made sure that I cut certain things out on the way to like the 3-day prep day. I managed it very specifically with mineralized water. And then I had an exit strategy and resumed, I resumed after my colonoscopy, like what a gift. I just reset my gut. I don't want to ruin it kind of thing. I didn't go gluttonous into like, I'm going to go eat a pizza and some hamburgers and french fries and like do all the things. I was very systematic about the whole thing. So if you have excessive cramping, during your colonoscopy, it might be that you didn't have enough lead-in time for it and your body just was too shocked by it. And then you got to drink lots of water because that prep drink is nasty. Now, people ask me too, like, weren't you worried about breaking your fast because you had to drink the prep? No, it's minerals. Like, no. And it's the whole point of what you're doing is you want to get through that prep to make sure everything is like squeaky clean. So you don't have any problems when you're going for your colonoscopy, right? So everything I did up to drinking the prep was the benefit that I got from the fasting. The prep just stripped everything else that was left. And that was super easy. The prep experience with that goop you have to drink was really, really not bad because I didn't have a whole lot left. And so that was the mindset that I went into that also. Aileen, I think it is, July grad, 65 and lost over 40 pounds. So I always like to do this. July, August, September, October, November, December, 40 pounds. She was a July 2022 grad. 24 works for me. No longer need to lose weight, but 24 provides all the health benefits needed. Thanks, Diane. You're welcome, my friend. Yeah, we don't have to do anything extremes if we do things consistently. Gotta say that again. We don't have to do things in extremes if we do things consistently. So if you want to live a healthy life, consistently live a healthy life, and then you don't have to do things in extremes. Terry, August grad. Yes, all the same symptoms. Love this lifestyle. Yes, love it. Robin, I love catching your live videos. I enjoyed Limitless. Felt sorry for Chris. Seemed to struggle with mindset. Still looking forward to January class. Yeah. And I love that they were very honest about his mental and emotional struggles and physical struggles. But remember, he went from like, he is a 40-year-old muscular man who can literally eat anything. And he was training for Thor and eating like 1,000-calorie meals and all of those kind of things. So food is just part of who he is. And so to just go without that for 4 days, that's why I say you have to do this work, right? And this is why multiple water day fasts are not something that really excite me because I love me some food. I love food, but I also love fasting, right? And so I don't want to have to give up one to enjoy the other. And that's where the 20-hour fast and the 4-hour feast is really beneficial because I get the best of both worlds. And I also get to reap all the benefits. So yeah, super cool. And, he did it for the future hope, and this is what I say too about fasting is that things like wearing sunscreen and making sure you stay away from certain things to help prevent breast cancer. Like, we hope it all works as advertised, but there's really no guarantee, right? So we want to keep looking for this proof. And this is what I love about this community is that you guys keep coming back, like Sandy, who's off thyroid medication after 15 years. Is like, there's proof that things can get better. There's proof that we can reverse some health issues. There's proof that we can reverse the signs of aging with consistent rinsing and repeat in moderation of what works for us and really listening to our body. And then we hope that the longevity promise is also there for us. And we aren't going to know, right, until we're 100 and we're celebrating the fact that we're 100 or whatever. Kadiha, I think it is. What about dry fasting over 1 day or more? I don't know. Again, that's not something I'm an expert in or even have any experience in. I'm a pro hydration person. So I recommend drinking 100 to 150 ounces of mineralized water a day. So I don't have any experience in dry fasting and would not be able to give any advice on that. I'm addicted to sugar. Well, want to be natural. How is that working for you? If that's working for you, then I say enjoy it. If it's not working for you, then we need to figure out a way to make it so that you are not addicted to sugar, because that can change if it's not working for you, for sure. Fiona, my friend, haven't seen you in a while. Did they tell you to come back in a year or 5 years when they found polyps on your colonoscopy? 3. I think it was the first time it was 3. I think it might be 5 now. But I'm just a polyp person. I don't know. My doctor, when I went in for my first colonoscopy, he was like, this is going to be a breeze. You're like the model patient. You take care of yourself. You exercise. You don't do any of these things. And then when I woke up from my colonoscopy, he was like, well, that didn't go as planned. And of course, my heart drops into my gut, because he didn't think he was going to find any polyps. And he found 4 or 5, and one was rather large, which I highly recommend not Googling what a large polyp is, but they all came back precancerous. So that's the proof that my healthy choices have been working in my favor. I will take a polyp that's non-cancerous any day. And now I'm just continuing to live this lifestyle, hoping that, that continues to be the case, right? So every 3 years, I think now I'm on the 5-year plan. Heavenly Girl, I've been doing alternate day fasting, so between 36 and 42 hours every other day. I've lost about 22 pounds since I started on September 26th, water and black coffee only. Well, there you go. She's figured out a way that works for her. And I love that for you. And there's a lot of people who do alternate day fasting and thrive in it. I personally, that's just too much for my mind to manage. 20 hours of fasting, 4 hours of feasting makes my life super simple. But I always love that you guys are finding your own protocols. Jasmine, hello. I find that if you give yourself some vegetables every day, you feel wonderful and you're feeding your healthy bacteria. A win situation. Thanks for all you do. Yeah, perfect. Love that you found that for you. Can you recommend a liquid stevia that you use for baking? No, I cannot. I'm not a big baker. And my daughter's actually in culinary school and she is doing some baking and she uses the real deal. So I don't really have anything. I know there's like monk fruit and there's coconut sugar and those kind of things. And then if you are going to look for an alternative to sugar, what you want to make sure that you do, because we just think an alternative to sugar is the stevia, read the ingredients label. Make sure that you're getting what it is you're paying for. And a lot of times stevia has fillers in them that are worse than actually baking with real sugar. So make sure you're very familiar with the ingredients list and make sure that you're doing your due diligence there. Okay, so what I'm going to leave you with today is something that I took from the very end of this docuseries on fasting with Chris Hemsworth and Dr. Attia when they were sitting down and having their break fast meal. And they were talking about how there's a little bit of guilt associated sometimes with breaking your fast, right? Because you're in that, like, especially when you get over the hump and you can eat, everything about your mindset and your emotional makeup kind of changes, right? And they said, or Chris Hemsworth said, he felt like his food was ceremonial, important, and special. What if we thought about breaking our fast as ceremonial, important, and special, and we didn't take it for granted just because there's food everywhere? What if we put that forethought in about when we break our fast and we think, and this is how I have really thought about breaking my fast over the last 5 years. I just created this amazing opportunity for my body to be created an opportunity for my body to be in a place where it can reboot, where it worked really hard to do me a favor, to heal things that I hope never surface as a problem for me on the inside for me as a favor. How am I going to pay my body back when I now introduce food back in, right? When you think about fasting that way, and you think about nutrition that way, and you think about breaking your fast that way, it's no longer a frenzy. It's no longer a panic. It's no longer, oh my gosh, I'm going to eat all the things, which is the model that a lot of fasters really do show for a lot of people. And I have always been of the mind that we are going to feast and make really, really conscious nutritional choices so that when we're in that fasted state the next day, how can we benefit from the time that we're going to choose to fast? And when we start thinking about it that way, and we get to that break fast place, we do think about it as being ceremonial, and we do think about it as being special, and we do think about how it is we can really give the gift of nutrition back to our body. So I want you to think about that as well. Think about that when you're sitting down to break your fast today. I love intermittent fasting. Way to go. 24 works fabulous. Thank you, Diane. You're the best. Thank you, my friend Terry. Hi there. Perfect timing for this talk. Thanks. You're welcome. I love this lifestyle. I will be joining class soon. I do 24 IF since I met you on YouTube in July 22. I never felt better and had more energy. 61 and lost 3 dress sizes. Girl, you're winning. I'd love to have you in class with us so that way you can kind of get those little missing pieces to the puzzle put together and really make a firm mindset shift about your future self. So that's it for us today. I love you guys. Be careful of trends. Be careful of fads. Be careful of, little things people are doing on the internet, and they might not be telling you the whole story. Do what works for you. You do not have to do things in extremes if you do things consistently. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye. Remember, the Intermittent Fasting for Today's Aging Woman course is open for registration. It will be open through the end of the month. I would love to have you in class with us. Magical things happen when you make the mindset shift, and I would love to be able to make some magic happen with you inside our January 2023 class. Have a great weekend, you guys. I'll see you back here on Monday at noon Central Standard Time, where we'll talk about another thing that has to do with intermittent fasting and as us as aging women.